down to Biscayne.
Yeah. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the flow playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome into 5 on the Floor live, late night here as the Miami Heat have one of the greatest victories in franchise history. There's just really no other way to put this. We've got the full crew tonight, the floor plan. We're going to reflect on this as much as we can. We're just going to let you enjoy it. We'll take some of your comments on here. Most unlikely series victory in Miami Heat history. 6th team in NBA history to win as an 8 seed against a 1 seed. I'm glad we did that episode before the season, before this series started. Only the 4th to ever do it in a best of 7 series. The Miami Heat were on the wrong side of this against the New York Knicks in 1999. And now they get to face the New York Knicks, likely starting this Sunday. Okay, we're going to breathe here for a second. We're going to let everybody come in because I don't really know what the hell we just saw. And we got to process a lot of it because this is what they did tonight. Okay? They went in without their starting 2-guard, without a guy who would help them on the bench, into a place that houses a team that was the number 1 seed, that was projected to win the championship this year, not just the Eastern Conference. They had the most wins in the regular season, even though they didn't have Chris Middleton. They had 58 wins. They have a guy who's a 2-time MVP and a finals MVP who played extremely well tonight with the benefit of being able to take 8 steps every damn time he touched the ball. They went in there as an 8 seed with a tattered roster, and they come back from double digits down again in the 4th quarter to the point they were down 16. Thank me for this. I tweeted, "We'll see you on Friday." We even put the tip-off time on there. The Panthers can have Friday at 7:30 to themselves. The Dolphins can make their 2nd-round pick now without anybody that's a Heat fan bothering them, because the Miami Heat just did that. I picked the Bucks in 5. I'm not embarrassed by it. To me, this made it all the greater. What Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra, and let's give some props to Bam Adebayo because he was awful in the first half. No question about it. He had an incredible 4th quarter and overtime. Incredible 4th quarter and overtime. Defensively, and then also making key plays on offense, he stepped up. People wanted to see him step up. He stepped up. Comment comes in here. Gabe Vincent, huge game after a very uneven, and that's putting it kindly, series. Kyle Lowry, moments in the first half before fouling out late. And then what the hell was Giannis doing when Max Strus was taking that 3? Maybe the worst foul I've ever seen committed in a big spot by a superstar. And then Max steps up and makes the free throws. And then Eric Spoelstra, okay? It's been a very difficult season for Eric for a lot of reasons. And tonight, bringing that group up there, getting them to believe, managing the game correctly when they fell down, and then the play call at the end of regulation that Jimmy converts. It's the most improbable victory in Miami Heat history. I'm just going to say it, right? It's the most improbable victory in Miami Heat history. They were 13-point dogs tonight.
13 and a half by the time it closed.
Better Edge and everywhere else are great sponsors. 13.5-point dogs tonight. Nobody really gave them a chance. I didn't give them a chance to win today. I thought they'd keep it close. Greg, what do we say?
I'm really glad that early on you did the homework to reference that this would be the equivalent of the big 3 Heat losing to the New York Knicks in that series that everyone remembers. I'm not going to chronicle it because it puts it in perspective what the hell they just did. And I know that Giannis was injured, but Miami has injuries of their own, and they're not some robust roster full of talent. So I refuse to get too I don't feel sorry for Milwaukee. This was unbelievable the way that they went up there and closed it out. It is a place that the Miami Heat fan has never been in before. That 8th seed that upsets a 1 seed, that's a new experience for Heat fans in general. And watching Jimmy Butler just literally the way he was taunting and talking to Drew Holiday, who was considered by his peers as the best defender in the league, to see them go back and forth and Jimmy just to ultimately control that game, it to be such a team victory. This season has been so weird for Heat fans. You don't know how to feel because this team has let you down throughout the entire regular season. Now I even wonder, do regular seasons matter? Because here we are, and they're giving us the opposite emotions of what we felt all season. And so, it's on to MSG. We're going to unpack this one tonight because it felt good. But wow, Jimmy Butler, he's different. He's just different, and he is on the level of all the Heat greats, right up there with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, no doubt.
Brady, when we look at the strategic elements of this game, particularly late, you're down 16, okay? You're dealing with foul trouble, a little with Bam, Lowry, others. Manny's got to monitor the comments better here. Is that Alex or is that Manny? Alex isn't taking responsibility.
I wish I could take credit for that.
We're all a little giddy tonight. You're down 16 points tonight, and you've got to find 5 guys on the floor, as we call the podcast here. And Bam's gimpy. I don't want to forget Kevin Love either. I mean, no. The irony, the sweet irony for him of that the Cleveland Cavaliers got bounced in 5 games and they had no bench production at all in that entire series. And Love gives them a double-double, including threes throughout. It seemed like
timely threes.
It seemed like everybody who didn't contribute in the other games contributed tonight. Like the other night it was Caleb, right? Tonight it was Love and it was Gabe, and a couple of the others. And Kyle for a stretch, but just take me through what Spoelstra did to manage this. And obviously then we're going to spend, probably 20 minutes gushing about Jimmy.
So trying to gather your thoughts of previous to that fourth quarter, when we just witnessed that fourth quarter and overtime is obviously ordered itself. But the beginning of this game I thought was big. The way they set up the offense was the fact that Gabe and Kyle were huge. Like, they were absolutely huge. When you look at the absolute profile of what you need next to Jimmy Butler in this series and in a 1-game sample size, you need your guards to hit pull-up shots. And then you take Tyler Hero out of the equation and you're like, okay, how are they going to do that? Well, Gabe came out and basically took over in that mid-range and really set them up perfectly. Kyle comes in and I thought had like an outstanding first stretch.
So good.
Like, vital first stretch, and it was messed up that he got in foul trouble because I thought that was what's going to actually, if they lost this game, part of my reason was going to be that Kyle foul trouble I thought was going to really hurt them. So that pull-up shooting was major. Then you saw the movement element when they found something with the Love thing. The popping element, in terms of they went out and got a guy that could actually screen and not have to dive to the rim every time, has been absolutely huge for this team as well, you could tell in the offense. Like, they just need that part of it. And it helps as well when the guy that's popping is actually able to hit the 3. Like, we talked about it before in the context of Love shooting it, and it was just him just getting it up. And now he's hitting it consistently. So that helps as well. I thought there was one play, and I know this is not major in terms of the context. That one play where they had like a crazy movement. It was a Bam catch, hand off to Duncan, pocket pass to Bam, swing back out to Love. That turned the tides where it's like, okay, they're figuring out the offense a little bit without Jimmy. And then Jimmy comes in. And when you asked about the schematic part of it, the biggest thing I could tell you in terms of my take on the schematics, I was just looking at the time frame of it because I was interested to see what the score was at that point. So the Heat are down 108 to 101 with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They continue now. The next 3 buckets are Jimmy Butler buckets with Bam Adebayo assists. That is not a coincidence. That is not just like, okay, you put your two best players out there and they'll go make plays. They drew up. I've been talking about this all season. I've been talking about the high-low stuff from Bam and Jimmy. It just works. It clears out the big man away from the rim. Bam can play make enough. Jimmy's physical enough with most guys that are guarding him, and it can work. They spammed that down the stretch. They just allowed Bam to just zip passes down low. Jimmy had a nice little bucket, just kind of an easy one. Then he has the and one that seemed to like really turn things up, and it's like, okay, wait, they have something. And then they had the third assist, I think, was the Jimmy three that really just was like, okay, now it's tie game. All of a sudden, Jimmy's going into that mode. So big, as much as we came on here so many times during the regular season, and they're like, okay, we have to put a little pushback on Eric Spoelstra or Eric, this decision. This was an Eric Spoelstra masterclass. The decisions he made rotationally, the plays he called, the final play in regulation, I'm sitting there saying to myself, after they went for that three the first time, I was like, okay, I'm like, I have a feeling this isn't going to Jimmy. This is going to be like a shooter like Max Strus kind of chucking up a three. That screening play to get Jimmy and make that play at the rim, like everything was like picture perfect in that way. And to your point earlier, because I know we're going to talk more Jimmy later, we do need to give Bam credit because Bam was, I'll say it, Bam was very horrible as a shooter in this game. He just could not score. He could not shoot. He had no rhythm. He had nothing. But the passing, I thought, opened up this game completely. And defensively, he changed this game. On that end, he changed this game. There is no player in this league that can do that to Giannis, what he did in that second half. That you can neutralize a guy like that one-on-one, and they weren't even trying to send help. They were like, okay, Bam's on him. We'll just stay home. So the stuff that he was able to do in that way, I thought was vital as well. But there was obviously, we can talk about Jimmy having 42, but there was some vital shots from a lot of these key guys that they just needed in this game.
Yeah, some of these are coming in here on the chat. I mean, Alex, Gabe Vincent tonight, he got shot happy in the first half after he started overall. But him and Lowry, I can't remember a game where they both made offensive contributions that mattered so much. Again, we mentioned Love. Zeller gave him a few minutes that they needed, during that stretch. Again, the beginning of the fourth quarter, too, we can't forget that because in game 4, the beginning of the fourth quarter, that thing was starting to get away, and then they went +3 at the start of the fourth to the point that without Jimmy, to the point that Bud mentioned it in the postgame presser. They did it again tonight before Jimmy came in. And I actually thought Spo waited 1 or 2 possessions too long to bring Jimmy in, and the lead extended again. But they managed to hold the thing there or cut into a little bit to give him a chance. And we are at the point, and let's just get to Jimmy now. We are at the point now that when he comes in with 6, 7, or 8 minutes left in the game and they're down 5, 6, 7, 8 points, they're winning. Like, however they get there, and tonight was choppy. I don't usually believe in officials going one way or the other. Clearly, the NBA wanted to extend this series.
You think?
I've never seen a guy travel so much and get away with it, but that's part of his game. But the touch fouls and everything else that was going on, this was a lopsided game from an officiating standpoint. This was not – there was a game that the Heat had against Phoenix earlier this year, if you remember, when Monty came in and he was complaining about the officiating and everybody – because it was like the disparity was like 26-4 or something. But you're like, but all you did was take mid-range shots the whole game. The Heat were going to the basket. They weren't getting calls. Milwaukee was going to the basket, and they were getting calls. So you had all of this going against you. But again, when Jimmy comes in with 6, 7 minutes left, it's like, okay, we're good. We're going to figure out a way to control pace, and we're going to win one way or the other. I don't even know what to do with it. We're going to have to talk about this. We talked about the greatest performance of Miami Heat history from a one-game perspective. From a series perspective, it's this and Dwayne in the finals. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the top 2.
You're right. And like, just to further exemplify how crazy the disparity was at the free throw line, 45-17. I'm repeating that from the rooftops as much as I can. That is unbelievable in terms of the attempts difference between the two teams. For them to overcome that, and for Jimmy Butler, this is when Jimmy is reaching a different space, when he's dribbling the ball up the court, and even the players on the court, you could kind of tell that they know that he could do whatever the hell he wants. And the fans even start to feel it. And it's becoming like it's picking up steam. This playoff Jimmy, as Brady so fondly coined the phrase. That's becoming a real thing. And it is up there with Dwayne in 06. Obviously, that is winning the ultimate prize. So we're always going to hold that to a certain extent. And it was the first of all. But when you just talk about bodies of work, what he's doing with less, as we've talked about, but tonight you can't even say with less. It was a total team effort, but led by Jimmy Butler. For him to keep being able to do this. The other thing is, like, they didn't get 3 days rest, 2 days rest. This was on one day. They're right back at it. He comes out, he controls the game. It's a masterclass. Jimmy Butler's in a different tier. The NBA recognizes it. The players recognize it. The only people that probably don't recognize it is, for the large part, the national media, but they can't ignore it forever.
Well, I think they're starting to recognize it. And to go back to Alex on this, when he comes back in with 6 minutes left, okay, I did not feel, or 7 minutes left, I did not feel like he was in the same rhythm that he was in the previous game. Okay, there were some choppy moments. He was shooting a lot of threes, which sometimes can get him a little bit out of rhythm, but they still couldn't get him out of his spots. Like, that's the thing. Like, no matter what it is, what did they try to do defensively on him? Because we talked about it so much in the lead up. It just still doesn't seem like anything worked. It seemed like the solution was, we're going to try Wes on him a little bit and be physical with him, because there's been some success before. But that was pretty much it. Like, I don't know what could Bud have done that he didn't do.
I don't know about that. Honestly, I'm a little bit upset that that's the question you're asking me now, when I just want to talk about that crazy game I just witnessed. I don't want to talk about no damn X's and O's. The only thing I noticed when it comes to how they treated Jimmy was even more of like Lopez shading away from Bam and towards the rim whenever Jimmy had the ball. It did not matter. And this is exactly what I was talking about in the last podcast. He transcends this stuff. And I realized after listening back to that I never answered the question as if you double Jimmy or not, because that's what my whole point was. It's like, it doesn't even matter at this point, because every time you think, okay, maybe that'll stop Jimmy, just like 2 seasons ago, Giannis did such a good job on Jimmy. That did not matter either. Like he wasn't the primary matchup on Jimmy, but almost every time, like, Jimmy found a way to get either a good shot or a good pass. Like, nobody stopped him, whether it was Drew, whether it was Wes. I mean, Middleton is just food for him. It doesn't matter what you do. He is going to find the creases. He's going to find the soft spots, and he's going to get there, and he's going to make the right decision for the most part. Like, this game was so wild. Between all the Gabe shots, which, by the way, I appreciate just the way that he went about it. Like, he kept going. Somebody has to take those shots. And, I said on playback, it should have been Tyler in a lot of these sets that they were running for Gabe. But I enjoyed what we saw from him. I really enjoyed what we saw from Love. I enjoyed that. What was it, the second quarter Kyle Lowry spurt where he was doing a lot of things. I thought the team defense in the fourth quarter was phenomenal. I thought Bam in the fourth quarter was absolutely amazing. I'm so happy for him that he put it together in that fourth quarter, because he was having another game where every shot was tough as hell. And he got in a little run there. He got in a little run, and like Brady mentioned, he had all those assists to Jimmy, and then all the elite defense. He finished with 20, 10, and 10. Like, he showed you everything he still does when the shots are not falling. Like, it's honestly, I cannot believe they did this. And they made me eat my words so freaking bad. Like, it's so bad, and I don't care. Like, I said Bucks and 6 to start the series. That's fine. From there, I said the series was over after game 2 when they blew that game without Giannis, thinking that he would be back right after. I said they're most likely going to lose the series now because they blew the chance without Giannis. I was so wrong. They won 3 games in a row after that. Like, Jimmy Butler is incredible. I thought last game, best game I've ever been to, all of that. This, I wasn't there, so it didn't top it. But holy crap, they were down 16 when the fourth quarter started. This was even crazier. I mean, Jimmy Butler didn't do the one-man scoring run he did last game, but he still made all the big shots. I thought the team defense was fantastic. The way that they started the fourth down 16, didn't play Jimmy for 5.5 minutes or so, and survived this. Like, it's unbelievable. Everything that I was upset about, they overcame it. The officiating, the Spo waiting until 6 minutes to play Jimmy. All of this, he transcends conventional wisdom. I cannot believe what I just saw. I can't believe they survived that game all of this has felt too good to be true. That's what I kept saying. And I what are we watching? What just happened? Did they really just eliminate the one-seeded Bucks? Are they about to play the Knicks in the second round? What's going on?
They did it with, I love the recall of some Heat fans. This comes from Jay Keller 5. I can't believe Spo called the Tyler Johnson for the win in 2015 Summer League play for Jimmy in a closeout play-in game on the road versus a 1 seed. And I just looked at the video. It was exactly the same play as he ran there. One other thing I want to get to with Jimmy, and then we're gonna get to Bam here, because Bam is kind of the redemptive figure of this entire thing. I think the thing with Jimmy, I keep talking about how he's sort of mastered the game at this point. Like he's going to play at his pace, and you're not going to rush him. But that applies to circumstances too. Like it doesn't matter if it's home or road at this stage. He is not going to get rattled at all. And I think when they're feeding off of that. Like it's like they've turned it over to him and said, just take us home. That's it. And I think Brady, you hit on this, and it was either you or Alex when we were doing the previews. It's just like, just get enough from these other guys. Just get enough. And it feels so simplified right now that it actually works better for them. And look, there was times in this series where I was like, they could use Tyler here. They could use Tyler to get into the gaps, to make those. But let's not forget, I didn't even mention that in the open. Again, they're without their third leading scorer, who really, they had 3 guys who averaged about the same amount of points this year. They had sort of leading scorers this year. They're without their only 2 guard who can create anything, okay, in the gaps of the defenses. I mean, they're down to Strus and Robinson at this stage. They don't even have Oladipo. They did this as an 8 seed. Like when we talk about the 8 seed, 1 seed matchups, right? Okay, when Chicago lost to Philadelphia in 2012, Chicago was the 1 seed. They were the compromise team. They lost Rose to a knee injury in game 1, okay? The Heat were the compromised team in this series. Yes, Giannis was out for a game, but he played the last 2, and he put up monster numbers. Like, there is no 8 seed, 1 seed parallel to what the Heat just did. We tried to create one beforehand, and I said, well, the closest thing might be the Knicks in 99 against the Heat, because the Knicks had really good players, and the Heat have Jimmy Butler, and so you kind of give them a chance that they were better than an 8 seed. But there's no parallel to this, okay? That Seattle team that Denver beat all the way back, okay, they were good, but they hadn't won a championship together like Milwaukee had. And again, Denver was healthy in that series. This is, not only to me, is it the most unlikely accomplishment in Miami Heat history, okay, but it's really the greatest 8 versus 1 upset ever, I think, okay? And I think it's going to be remembered as such, and I think the odds makers would show it. This series was 8 to 1 prior to the series. You put down $100, you won 800 before this series. That's what the odds makers thought of the Heat's chances. People gave the Heat in Vegas the same chances as the Nets to beat Philly. And we saw what happened in that series. And look what the Heat just did. All right, we're going to get into Bam a little bit more here after the break, and then we will briefly look ahead to the Knicks, because we've got a bunch of days to do that. We do want to mention our sponsors, including, because she's here, so we definitely have to mention her. Lynette, she's here with us around all the streams, playback. Go to insurancebylynette.com, insurancebylynette.com, and there you can find your life insurance, your renter's insurance, your car insurance. She's based in Lauderhill area. Is that right, Lynette? I believe so. That's where I drove to meet you. 954-581-8800, 954-581-8800. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. She's also the biggest Heat fan that we know, but also if you have a bad driving record, you definitely reach out to her for sure, because she will make sure that you get your insurance and everything else taken care of. And again, 954-581-8800. We also do want to mention our betting partner. It's betteredge.com. Go to betteredge.com and /5 reasons, or betteredge.com and just enter 5RSN. You get $20 to play. This is peer-to-peer gambling, so it is legal. It is legal in 44 states, including the state of Florida. You're not betting against the book. You're betting against others there, and you can find the line that you want. You can play in tournaments. And again, if you'd gone there today, you could have gotten plus 13 and a half. You could have gotten plus 17 and a half there at certain parts of the day today. So
and I did.
I'm sure you did. So go to betteredge.com and make your money there. We always appreciate all of our other sponsors, and you'll hear from them during the week. Let's just go to Bam right now. Yes, Brady.
I just want to say, because I know we're going to lean into big-time basketball talk, I just want to throw in the fact that Haslam had the same amount of points as Bobby Portis tonight. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh.
Because that turned the game around. I've been saying for so long that they need like a good fight. And that wasn't even a good fight, but I just thought that they needed like a collective when they were going through some rough times where they needed something to like get them, push them forward. They needed that. Like they needed that to like spark them a little bit. I think that sparked Jimmy.
I think UD knew they needed that, and that's why he went at it. Bobby Portis, who I played over in Prize Picks tonight, they feed off of him, right? And he gave them absolutely nothing. A big donut tonight. They got more from Connaughton. We'll decide in a second. I might pick them in this series. I don't think you guys want me picking them, so we'll see. But they got more from Connaughton. They got, obviously, Middleton had a huge game for them tonight. Holiday was a little bit uneven. Brook was great for most of this series, actually. I mean, they didn't beat a team with a bunch of guys playing poorly. They really didn't. I mean, they beat a team with most of their core guys playing pretty well, at least for good portions of the series. After we do this, I want everybody just to think about this, to come up with the craziest moment from this game, because so much happened, and I was trying to write it all down that I don't even remember some of the sequences. So we'll get to that before we close here, and then again, we're going to spend about 3 or 4 days just talking about the Knicks. But I do want to talk about Bam here. And I feel that there's going to be a bunch of narratives that come out of this, okay? Because there are going to be some who say, well, the hamstring's bothering him so much. How did he turn up the way he did in the fourth quarter and the overtime? And I hope it doesn't go there, Greg.
Well, I would just have an answer for that you
Well,
can do it. You can do it in a very short spurt, but to do it for prolonged periods of time consistently over and over again is a lot more of a physical strain. So I think he kind of gathered everything he had and put it into those final minutes. I mean, doesn't that appear viable?
Well, it does. And here's the odd thing about the narrative with him, okay? Because the odd thing about the narrative with him is that we talk about him sometimes in terms of, well, he's not an alpha, right? Like we've discussed this before, right? He's not an alpha personality in this sense. He's not Jimmy. He kind of needs to be coaxed into being aggressive and all the rest of this stuff. And yet there are parts of the narrative that don't fit, because he was leading the league in fourth quarter scoring for a period of time this year. And he's had games like this where he's just been completely dominant defensively and in other ways, and sometimes scoring in the fourth quarter, in overtimes. So he doesn't fit into that box of the guy who always shrinks, okay? Because he doesn't shrink in those moments that often. It's like, but the first halves in this series were bad. So Brady, I mean, other than, again, just him kind of becoming a frenzied player in the fourth quarter and overtime when they need it, did something change to get him going, or did he just do it himself?
I don't think anything changed. I really don't. I've been saying it. We said in the last podcast, nothing is going to change Bam's confidence, mental side of it, unless it's just hitting shots. Like, that is the only thing that changes anything. And the only thing that you could give as an alternative to hitting shots is like making plays to like tune into that, which was the assists, which was setting him up for kind of setting up Jimmy in those sets, which was that I thought one of the really underrated shots of the night. He's going through this stretch where he goes down, he bricks a shot, comes back down again. This is in the fourth quarter, bricks a shot. And it's like, okay, this isn't going well for him. This team is done. He comes back down a third time. And we know old Bam Adebayo, after missing 2 shots in a row, is passing that ball and he's getting out the way, even without Jimmy Butler on the floor. He gets into the low post and he turns into a left hook and it ends up in an and one. The next play, Kevin Love hits a 3, and that kind of was like the big one to kind of cut it to like 6, I think, at that point. That was like a major play. Like, when you talk about flipping something from the mental side from Bam Adebayo, it's that. It's not caring that you just missed 2 shots in a row. It's not caring that you're playing horribly offensively early in the game as an offensive, as kind of a scorer. Like, I think that stuff is important. But it's also when you're playing, I guess, without Tyler Hero, when you're the primary second option behind Jimmy Butler, you can't really have those moments. Like at this stage, like that's the problem. Like that's the kind of the balance here where you can kind of recognize that, but also know that moving forward, you may not have the opportunity that you had tonight to kind of get it into OT and end up getting a win and moving on. Like that may not happen. But now you don't have to face this coverage anymore. Like if there's similar things you're going to face drop, you're going to face this stuff. But you do not have to see Brook Lopez and Giannis lurking ever again this season. Like you're done with that. So now, injury or not, you should be able to have different looks than you had this entire series. And I think that's what they look to do. I'm not looking forward to a second round series right now because I don't even know what just happened in this game. But I do know that I just want to see him get different looks moving forward, and I think we will.
I can't believe they eliminated Giannis. I just in the first
5
round,
games again.
And the crazy thing is, this is going to stick to his legacy now, and he didn't play poorly. I mean, he missed some free throws and some other things, and the holes in his game showed, but it's not like he went LeBron 2011 finals. Like he didn't. Like he
and they have major changes on the horizon too, because they have a whole bunch of issues with spending and extension eligible players. Giannis is extension eligible coming up here soon, so that's an interesting scenario in Milwaukee to watch. But
this series might have cost them Chris Middleton. To be honest,
gone fishing.
Yeah, it's just insane, and it turns out that the Heat ended up in the right bracket after all, which is it's insane how that worked out. All right, let's go around the horn here because we're gonna forget stuff. I've forgotten so much of it. I feel like I need to rewatch the whole thing again, and hopefully some of you were on playback because everybody went nuts. I was trying not to give it away because the regular stream was about a minute ahead, and then I jumped on to playback, and I just wanted to see everybody's reaction to Jimmy's play at the end of regulation. When I thought they were going to go for 3 there, actually, because I thought it was go for the kill with everybody in foul trouble.
Me too.
Alex, is there one sequence from this game that we can try to process in retrospect?
I forgot that you already asked the question before. I already forgot. My brain is just still like the cortisol. All of that is firing off right now. I just can't process one thing. There was so many crazy moments. Like I can't pick one. I'm just going to shout out some of the ones that come up in my head that are not necessarily Jimmy moments. The Strus block, the Lowry steal. I mean, man, hold on. I mean, the Jimmy shot to tie the game, just a beautiful set by Spo. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised how poorly the Bucks defended that because they really had Jimmy sitting there in the paint. Like it was obvious he was about to come off of a cross screen, and they just let Connaughton switch on to him, and there was no double sent. Great play call by Spo. Jimmy made so many great shots, and I really do think I said this before the playoffs started. He's the Eastern Conference boogeyman. Like he has beat all of these best teams in the East. He's done it before this series. He just beat the Bucks again 2 out of 3 times. When we look back at it, both series should have been a sweep. The 2021 was almost a sweep if it wasn't for Middleton doing his thing when Giannis was out. This one, if game 2, they would have come out with the requisite effort. Obviously, it wouldn't have been a guaranteed win. But, man, we could be talking about 2 sweeps right now. You know what I mean? Both ended up with a gentleman's sweep, and that's how the Heat got eliminated. It's just crazy that they ended up winning this tiebreaker series. Jimmy is the boogeyman. Jimmy is a hunter, and he put the deer on the wall. The damn deer, he's got them all on the wall.
I mean, he literally put that on his IG after game 1 and then followed through on it. And we know what the narrative is going to be now going forward is that Boston-Philadelphia is the Eastern Conference Finals, and yet Jimmy Butler is the one player that everybody's afraid of. Like, ain't nobody afraid of Joel Embiid. I'm sorry, okay? Ain't nobody.
You're definitely not afraid of Harden.
Well, not for sure.
Or Tatum and Brown.
Or
frankly.
Tatum. We saw Tatum in the finals. Okay, there's a level that this guy gets to that they don't get to when it matters most, and it's almost inexplicable. It really is because we just keep talking about it in the sense he's not overwhelming in any athletic way. He's just not. He's just. His will is stronger than theirs. To me, that's what this is about. And we talked about it before the series. Spoelstra and Jimmy, and that's why I asked Eric this question before the series, they like this position. They like hunting. And my concern before this game was that they were going to act like they were the hunted instead of the hunters because they had a 3-1 lead. They did not act like that. They wanted to kill this thing tonight. And for a team, Giannis was traveling like a deer. He was.
He really was.
Deer don't take that many steps. But to do, again, the idea that they went up there to finish this thing tonight,
I can't
when this
fathom it.
team showed so little resolve for so much of the season. And, Alex summed up many of those moments, so we don't need to keep doing that. Middleton, I thought the ball was out of bounds when he tried to save it. There were a lot of circumstances that could have gone another direction. Spo's challenge. Does he lose challenges in the fourth quarter? Like, he always saves them for the last 2 minutes. And this is coming in on Twitter. He outcoached Bud by such circles in this series.
Bud's about to get fired.
Yes. I mean, Eric Spoelstra keeps getting coaches fired. He keeps getting coaches fired. Okay. And we complain about certain things during the year. And I do not believe this was his best regular season by any stretch of the imagination. Okay. But he keeps getting coaches fired. I mean, he got Nate McMillan fired. He gets coaches fired all the time. I mean,
can I ask you a quick question? What was your feel of Budenholzer after Game 4 since you covered the post game? Because to me, after Game 3, the one when I covered him, shook vibes. I don't know if it's now just after the fact, but
Giannis saved his job 3 years ago with that run through to the championship. But there's again, there are levels to this, right? And Eric can get to a level that these guys can't get to. It's just we've seen it over and over. Maybe not day after day after day. There were times this year we felt he wasn't reaching this team. And again, I don't think it was his best season. But there are levels that he reaches that the rest of them don't reach. And they just don't. And, there are great coaches around the NBA. I think Ty Lue's a great coach. There are a lot of great coaches around the NBA. But he's different. And Jimmy's different. And they are made for each other. And I know the Heat fans are going to be all freaked out now, like, okay, now the front office is going to say, we have enough. Like, here's the T-shirt. We have enough, and we're not going to make any changes. They still need to make changes in the offseason. But I think what we need to celebrate here is that a team that nobody expected anything from at this stage just pulled off one of the great upsets in NBA history, and it was not a fluke. Like Alex said, like they won this series. Like they outplayed this team, which was almost completely healthy at this stage of the year. They went and won 2 games in that building, in this series as a road team, and they finished this thing off in 5. Again, when a player who averaged 21 points a game in the regular season was not available to them, they had to watch Victor Oladipo and deal with that emotional strain from watching him. Maybe it's not his career, but it was pretty close to it, and in front of their eyes after what they saw him go through. Players stepped up in this series, like not so much tonight, but Duncan Robinson, after what he's been through this year, gave them moments. Gabe Vincent to play like that tonight after struggling through much of this series. Bam, who's hearing all the criticism, to come up with a fourth quarter like that and in overtime. It's a remarkable, remarkable performance. And like I said, I think to me, it's the most unlikely moment in Heat history. But beyond that, and this is the biggest thing, they made this season matter. And I kept podcast after podcast after podcast after podcast. I kept saying, they're not making this season matter. We are not going to remember this season. You are going to remember this season now. No matter how it ends against the Knicks, that was absolutely freaking unforgettable.
We got moments.
Jimmy Butler in the Garden. That's going to be
moments. My God. Oh. They're not ready, man. They are not ready. And that arena is about to be packed with so many annoying New Yorkers.
But you know that villain thing.
Both arenas are going to be packed with a bunch of annoying
That's what I'm saying.
But in MSG, though, like they like to find a villain and pick at him. And Jimmy is not Trae Young.
They don't want that. They don't want that. They see what happened with Trae. Jimmy's like that times 15.
That's the wrong guy to go at. I mean, they will. Absolutely, they will. The only thing I can't promise is I'm going to check the flights tomorrow, so it's on me if things go wrong.
They overcame the Ethan jinx, guys. Ethan reserved his spot in New York before Game 4 when they were up 2-1.
I did.
They overcame that.
I reverse jinxed it today by saying they were going to play at the same time as the Panthers on Friday night at 7:30.
Good job.
So I
reverse jinxed it by saying
not that powerful.
I did that when they were down 6.
I don't know. I think Ethan's starting to finally harness his power. Look, I said that they were headed for a repeat of 2 seasons ago. I said it maybe like 30 times this season. I couldn't have been more wrong. Like, they're just all making us eat our words. it's just so improbable. They did this in 5 games without their third best player. And yes, Giannis missed 2 games. I understand. But holy crap, man. Like, what is going on right now?
Donut Dan, it says Ethan did the packed one suit for Dallas. I only have one suit, so that's all. That's all. I got a bunch of black T-shirts in my old age. That's all I'm wearing. All right. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to Brady. Thanks to our sponsors, BetterEdge.com. Use code 5RSN. Prize Picks. Use code 5. And of course, our friend Lynette. Reach out to her today. Okay, she's been with you all year here on the streams. Why are you going for insurance to anybody else? Reach out to Lynette at 954-581-8800. Not now. It's 1:20 in the morning, but tomorrow. Have a good day. Look at that. Look at that. Andy's going to go get a 4th. Have a good night, everybody.
Screw Wisconsin.